First off, this what if isn't going to be anything too special. It might get a part two, it might not. Either way, I really don't care, but I promised you guys a villain what if, and I'm going to come through with it. So, this is what if Naruto had Akame's sword. Now, the way that he would get the sword is, I'm going to be honest, the sword just fell through existence. Like, after Akame put up her sword, and after Tatsumi and basically all of her friends died, she basically gave up on everything else. And since she was seen as a hero after that, she would technically be nobility slash rich. So she would never have to fight again. Now she will put up the sword, and when she did, the sword basically just fell through existence. By that I mean a wormhole literally engulfed the sword and it fell out of existence. Now, one day, Naruto's Naruto's just basically walking and he feels something hit his head and he falls to the ground. Now, about 20 seconds of being out cold, he gets up and he looks at who or what just hit him inside of an annoyed face. Now, he then looks at it and it's a katana. Now, this katana looks weird because it has ceilings on the scabbards. And and most swords don't have that unless they have ceilings on them or they're supposed to be una- unable to be opened, like they're supposed to be sealed by someone and probably are so powerful that they don't want anybody else to touch them, or there's a family heirloom so only they can undo the sealing. Now he picks up the sword and then unsheaths it. Now he would be as careful as Akame with the sword because he doesn't want to cut himself. He would then take the sword home. And as he did, he would then, after reading up on some scrolls, like reading up on like 7 different scrolls on how to use a sword or how to use kenjutsu, he was still sloppy since all he did was read some scrolls about it. But he was even more careful with the sword. Now he would decide to go out and test this on some animals, I guess you could say. Now he goes out and he's just trying to find a sheep or a pig, something that wouldn't exactly try to kill him. And as he then heard a growling behind him. He turns around and there's this big ass wolf behind him. So instantly he says, "Yeah, fuck no," and then he starts running. Now, as he continues running, the wolf thing bites Naruto's leg, which normally his leg would heal from this, but the wolf isn't letting go of his leg. It's just crushing the bones inside of his leg. So then he won't be able to run away from it. Now, he then proceeds to try and shake his foot out of the wolf's mouth. And then he remembers he has a katana. So he slashes the wolf with the katana. Now, normally, this wouldn't do much damage, but as it came inside of contact with its skin, it then ceilings then started to appear around the wolf, or spots where you could see the wolf's, well, the ceilings appear around the wolf like its eyes. Now the ceilings spread across the entire wolf's body, and after that the wolf died. And as the wolf died, he could then hear a sudden growling from the sword. Along with the growling, you could hear thousands maybe even hundreds of thousands of other screams and pleas. You could just hear them all inside of that one sword. Now, he then sheathed the sword and he decided to take this thing home. Now, as he did, he then placed the Naruto not being good at healings, he does a basic seal. So then no one of a basic villager, um, basically a basic villager could unseal it. And he places it on the sword. And then he puts it up before he goes to sleep, just to be extra careful, just in case his house was broken into when he was sleeping. You know, not really to keep the sword per se, but to keep anybody from accidentally slashing themselves with the sword and then dying. Like, that would be unfortunate. Now, he wakes back up and the sword's still there. So he decides to take off the ceiling and unsheath the sword again. Now, he gets a holster for the sword and he puts it on his back. No, actually, he puts it on his side. Because even he. This is like the first time in Naruto's life that he actually thought about something. But if he was to accidentally take the sword out the wrong way and it was to stab the back of his head, he would have. He, even with the nine tails, like, that nigga would. That slumber. Like, that's all I can say at that point. Like, roll credits, my nigga. Like, he would be gone. He then goes to ninja school, and everybody sees Naruto with his new sword. Now, everybody can see Naruto's sword has a ceiling over it. But this ceiling wasn't like the ceilings on the handle of the sword. No, it was it was over the scabbard and the holster for the sword. So that nobody could really touch his sword or try to take it, since people really hated Naruto. Someone would try to take the sword from him because, they hated him and they wanted to see him in pain, or at least mental pain. So he would sit down and he would still act like his normal self, being loud and shit on some shit, but you know, just all around being loud. Now, says for the first time to Naruto, like having a decent conversation with him, he says, "You're not the type of person to use a sword. Especially, I'm not the type of person to end up sealing a sword." Naruto then says, "Well, I guess you could say this sword is a special one, I guess." Sasuke then Sasuke then Sasuke then ignores him because he doesn't really care at this point, and this was after the whole Mizuki accident. So the teams then start to be called. Now, as he calls up the teams, he says Naruto, Uzumaki, Sakura, and Sasuke Uchiha. Now, as they all look absolutely just heartbroken by this, Aruka then notices, because he was the last one to come into class, so then, all the kids could get into class, that Naruto has a sword on his side. And he says, "Hey Naruto, what's that sword right there?" And Naruto says, it's a special sword. Not to me, just special in general. He says, so those ceilings on the handle must be for extra, for, I'm guessing the ceilings on the handle are for implanted chakra to make you stronger. Sealed chakra, I guess you could say. Or maybe, no, you couldn't possibly know that technique. Now, as he says that technique, everybody then looks over and they say, "What do you mean, sensei?" And he's like, "Never mind." Anyway, uh, is it just a writing, or because he's looking from the classroom and he can't really read it? No, he says, "No, I actually don't know what this is. Honestly, when I was walking through the middle of the village, it literally fell out of the sky." And he says, "Oh, okay. I mean, like, cool, I guess." So they all wait for their teams. And as they wait for their teams, you know, Naruto does the whole eraser prank. And Kakashi says, "My first impression of you, you're all idiots." Which this angers Sakura and Sasuke because they wanted to have a good first impression for their sensei, their new sensei. So, Kakashi then says, "Meet me at the roof," and uses, I think it's called Shinsha or Shinshin, whatever. He basically body flickers to the roof, and they walk up to the roof, and he then asks them what all their dreams and aspirations are. Now, Naruto says, "Mine is to be Hokage, and I like ramen." Basically, Sasuke says that he wanted to kill Itachi, and he doesn't really like much. And Kakashi says, you know, basically nothing but his name. And yeah, I think that's all the useful people on Team 7. Yeah, pretty much. So, you know, we just gonna act like Sakura doesn't exist. So now he then says he then says, "Don't eat tomorrow or you'll throw up." Now they all listen and leave, and Sasuke asks Naruto again what the ceiling on the sword is, cause his sensei said that he couldn't have possibly known a technique. So what is the ceiling? Sasuke then looks at him with curiosity. And then Naruto says, "I know you're gonna keep on asking because you're that type of person. So I'm gonna go ahead and just show you." Now Naruto then walks and Sasuke's like, "Where are we going? Where are we going?" So basically they go to the forest type area. Not outside of the village, but it's kind of foresty. Now how do I explain? Oh yeah, I know. Basically a sheep runs out of the bushes. Now Naruto basically cuts the sheep slightly, and Sasuke is like, "What is that? What did you just do? There was no point to that." Now, as Sas as Naruto shushes Sasuke, Sasuke then sees ceilings appear around the sheep's body, and then the sheep dies. Now, after the sheep dies, you can then hear sheep noises from the sword, and then he sheaths the sword. Now, Sasuke basically says, "What did you just do?" And basically, Naruto says, "Oh, it wasn't me. It was this sword that I literally told you guys that fell out the sky. You should really listen more." He basically says, basically anything that this sword cuts dies, and then its soul gets sealed into the sword. So, there would probably be no point in trying to take the sword for Itachi reasons, because if you end up cutting yourself, it won't really end in your favor. So he then walks away, and that's where we'll end it off.